morning, or depending when you're watching this, good afternoon, good evening, or good night. My name's Ross, and as always told, out of Voice of Radio. So today, we're going to be taking a look at a new Tyranitar card, and a new Pupitar card for what that's worth. This could be fun. Now, our translation here actually comes from me using Google Translate, but I have checked with the lovely Antoine Boulet, and it turns out Google Translate did us a solid. Cheers, Google. And cheers, Antoine. Starting off with the basics of Tyranitar, it's looking pretty gosh darn big. 180 HP is high for a stage 2, which is lovely, higher than we're used to. And we get a retreat cost of 4, which means that you can use buff padding. So not only do you have the same HP as something like the majestic Mamoswine, that's right, it's dropping in a Mamoswine reference. To be fair, that had 180 back in Crimson Invasion. That was a bit silly. But anyway, you can get an extra 50 HP with buff padding, and that's pretty gosh darn good. And of course, it means you can use stuff like Pokemaniac to search it out, if that's the kind of thing that you're into. Weakness to grass, not a huge deal at the moment, might become so. There's plenty of good grass Pokemon around at the moment, many of whom revolve around Rillaboom. But then again, we've still got Welder, and Welder decks are everywhere, which are kind of scaring off all the grass decks, so maybe a bad weakness in the future, not bad for now. But being a fighting Pokemon is awesome. It means Diancie Prism Star to do an extra 20 damage, Martial Arts Dojo to do an extra 10 damage, or 40 if you're behind on prizes, though remember that is tied to having fighting energy, basic, not being a fighting Pokemon, like Diancie. We've got Karate Bout to reduce your attack cost by 1 fighting energy, so that sounds pretty gosh darn good. And then you're hitting weakness on a fair amount of stuff here and there. Things like Silvally GX, for instance, will be going down quite easily. Now, before we actually get into Tyranitar properly and what it does, we need to detour through Pupitar. Now, on the face of it, there's nothing terribly special about Pupitar. The 80 HP is fine, the retreat cost of 3 is fine, the 1 fighting energy for 20 damage is not particularly great, although if you add in stuff like Diancie Prism Star and Martial Arts Dojo, you can get up to 80 for 1 energy if you're behind on prizes, which is alright, but then there's other fighting Pokemon that do more. Nope, none of that about Pupitar excites us. What does excite us, though, is the fact that it allows you to cheat the rules of evolution. You see, what it does for free colourless energy is 40 damage. Not terribly impressive. However, you may then search your deck for a card that evolves from this Pokemon and put it on top of this Pokemon to evolve it. And that, ladies and gentlemen, is when we start getting excited about Pupitar. Because you see, this turns Tyranitar into a pseudo Stage 1. It's not a Stage 1, alright? It's technically still a Stage 2. And you've still got to play your Larvitar and your Pupitar and your Tyranitar in your deck. But here's where things get interesting. You won't play Rare Candy. Maybe if you're playing some other deck with some other Stage 2s, and you could still play Rare Candy. What I mean is you don't need to play Rare Candy. What you do is you evolve up into Pupitar, attack, boom. There's your Tyranitar. And then in theory, while you're rocking around with your 180 HP Tyranitar, that gives you time to manually evolve some of the ones on your bench. You don't have to use this attack. You can go the traditional Rare Candy route. I won't be mad at you. It's okay, seriously. But then by the same token, you've got this option if you want it. And that's kind of awesome. Now, the attack cost is a pain. It's free colourless energy. But now, you can use triple acceleration energy, but it falls off at the end of your turn, and I don't know if I love the idea of using it just to do 40 damage and evolve. Although remember, that 40 damage isn't really 40 damage. It's 60 with Diancie Prism Star, 70 with Martial Arts Dojo, 100 if you're behind on prizes. So remember, when we look at fighting Pokemon, the amount of damage you end up doing is not the same as the amount of damage printed on the card. It's important to note. We've got Twin Energy, which will be 2 colourless energy, though you do then need a third. Maybe you do it over 2 turns. or maybe you use something else. Personally, this seems like the kind of deck where Colossal would be very good. Although that is a stage 2, so then we definitely need Rare Candy. That's the one that's got the ability that once during your turn, you may attach a fighting and a fire energy from your discard pile to your Pokemon in any way that you like. Now, this is good. It is a stage 2, admittedly, but it accelerates energy, and then you're using fire energy, so maybe even you play a little bit of Welder, and shall we say the energy will not then be a problem. Twin energy and a little bit of extra fighting is probably the better way to go here. But then we move into Tyranitar properly. Tyranitar, the first attack, 1 fighting, 2 colourless, 120 damage. If there is a stadium card in play, discard it. It's alright. It's not the reason you play Tyranitar, frankly. It's fine. I mean, if you're hitting for weakness, you will get a KO on something like Silvally, so that's quite nice. And you'll be easily smashing something like a Dedenne. And again, with Diancie, you're up at 140. Martial Arts Dojo, if you're behind on prizes, 180. That's all right. Now, the thing I do like about this attack, as opposed to Pupitar, because it's 1 fighting energy, if you're behind on prizes, you can use Karate Belt. And then essentially the attack becomes Karate Belt Twin Energy, and that is payable in a single turn. That's quite good. Of course, if you've had 3 colourless energy on the Pupitar beforehand, and at least one of them was fighting, you won't even need to do anything here. That's the other reason I don't love using triple acceleration on Pupitar. It means you're starting from scratch when you get your Tyranitar out, and frankly, Tyranitar is quite expensive as it goes. The last thing you need is to be having to find all the energy from scratch. I'm not terribly loving it. Now, the good news is that if you've attacked with Pupitar, I mean, firstly, it means you end essentially turn 2 with 180 HP Pokemon, which is hard to KO. But it also means that your opponent's taken 40, 60, 70, whatever it might be damage. And that means that this 120 isn't really 120. I mean, if you're not behind on prizes, let's assume you've got a Martial Arts Dojo and a Diancie Prism Star. Well, Pupitar hits for 70, this attack hits for 150, and all of a sudden you've actually hit 220. That's an awful lot better. But it really is the second attack which makes me more excited here. 2 fighting, 2 colourless, 250. Discard the top 5 cards of your deck. I'm not entirely sure we need to discard the top 5 cards of our deck for this. You're already talking about a 4 energy stage 2 Pokemon. You discard the top 5 cards of your deck as kind of a punishment for having a really good attack. It's the card designer's way of saying, look, this attack is actually really good, so we're going to have to give you a downside. Discarding the top 5 cards of your deck is your downside. But 4 energy 250 is, I mean, it's good, don't get me wrong. But on a stage 2 and on a typing which doesn't have phenomenal energy acceleration, I'm not sure it's awesome. Now, to be fair, if you've got 1 energy on there already, you can go Karate Belt Twin Energy, or you can go Colossal Twin Energy. Although, to be fair, even that wouldn't really work that well, because Colossal, remember, is 1 fighting, 1 fire. And here you need the 2 fighting. So you get 1 fighting and a fire on with Colossal, and then you still need a fighting and a colourless. I told you it's not the easiest way to accelerate energy. And that's kind of my problem here. Why are we discarding 5 cards from the top of our deck? Really? And here's the thing, the numbers here work perfectly. Add a Diancie Prism Star, you're up at 270. That's Reshiram and Charizard going down. That's Mewtwo and Mew going down. What's that, you say? What about Arceus and Dialga and Palkia that comes in with 280? Don't worry your pretty little head about it, because even if you're not behind on prizes, Martial Arts Dojo will put you up to 280. If you are behind on prizes, you're up to 310. It does a huge amount of damage. But it's on a stage 2 for 4 energy, and you have to discard the top 5 cards of your deck. If it was 250 for 4 energy, not discard, it would be better, obviously. But if it was fighting double colourless 250, discard the top 5 cards of your deck, it would be way better. Even fighting treble colourless would open up triple acceleration energy or colossal for much easier ways to pay it. You'd be able to either go colossal twin energy, or you'd be able to go karate belt triple acceleration, and then it would be worth it. But having 2 fighting, 2 colourless, and discard the top 5 cards of your deck, it's like all the little shortcuts we would have had to turn this into a really good attack have gone away, and what we're left with is an admittedly very good attack, but with so many downsides I don't know if I can wholeheartedly recommend it. Now, I do love the synergy with Excadrill here, and anyone that knows me well would know I was definitely going to mention Excadrill here. 1 fighting energy, 30 damage. If there are 3 or fewer cards in your deck, you do 150 more damage. And don't forget, you can always use Fiona to make sure you never deck out. Just cross your fingers your opponent doesn't drop a Belelba and Bryson Man, else you will deck out. And also, if you're going to play Tyranitar, please hope you never play against a mill deck. It will go very badly. I mean, if we compare the attacks here, Excadrill for 1 fighting energy is 120, discard the top 4 cards of your deck, but that's because it's 120 on a single energy stage 1. I don't think Tyranitar's terrible. I think the fact that you can hit 250 is really good. I think the fact that you've got 180 HP is really good. And I think the fact you can cheat evolution with Pupitar is really good. And if we compare it to the team-up Tyranitar, that's got Darkness, Treble, Colourless, 130, but 230 if it's an EX or a GX, well, you're doing 20 more than that regardless of what you're attacking. And you've got a better typing, and you've got more HP. But there's so many downsides, I'm just giving it 3 wassies. I think there is a deck here, and certainly with better fighting energy acceleration, I think this could work. But the fact that it's 2 fighting, 2 colourless really does take away stuff like Colossal and Triple Acceleration, really doing everything that they could do, and that just makes me sad. But I'd like to know if it makes you happy or sad, so let me know in the comment section. Go nuts, be nice. And then make sure you like this video, subscribe to this channel, follow me on Twitter at TheWassy, and Twitch for some live action at twitch.tv/PTCGRadio. If you want to support the channel, get some bonus podcasts and all that good stuff, head on over to patreon.com/PTCGRadio, where you can do exactly that. And please do make sure you're checking out youtube.com/WassyPlays, where you can find out about a whole bunch of games that don't have Pokemon in, but are pretty gosh darned awesome nonetheless. But by far the most important thing as always, look after yourselves till next time, would ya? Thank you very much for watching. My name's Ross, and you've been watching PTCG Radio.